This video discusses possible tens of thousands of African American descendants of King David and explains why there is a Jews-German struggle. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. I never expected a descendant of King David to be living in India. I had come across some Jews living in Kerala state in South India and knew that some lived in Mumbai. Only much later I discovered that many Jews who did not know they were Jews lived in North India and that I was one of them. Then God revealed to the late Queen Elizabeth II of England that I was also a descendant of King David. That is how I discovered my ancestors were descendants of King David. When I go back scores of generations of my ancestors, it's quite likely there are possibly tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of descendants of King David related to me living in North India. In the same way, there are likely to be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of African Americans who are descendants of King David. One such descendant of King David is Michael Strahan, a retired American football NFL Hall of Fame level star, Super Bowl champion, whose other accolades include two-time Emmy Award winner, analyst on America's most watched NFL pre-game show, Fox NFL Sunday, alongside fellow Pro Football Hall of Famers Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, Jimmy Johnson, and Tony Gonzalez. Strahan is currently co-host of ABC's Good Morning America show, where I watch him almost every day. He also hosts the top-rated primetime game show favorite $100,000 Pyramid on ABC. He also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He is also an astronaut, though not a NASA astronaut, having flown into space on December 11, 2021 aboard Blue Origin NS-19. Strahan has a best-selling book to his credit, Wake Up Happy: The Dream Big, Win Big Guide to Transforming Your Life. He also has his own clothing collection, of which I am the proud owner of a piece. He is also the proud father of 4 beautiful adult children, all royalty, descendants of King David, by virtue of which they are related to King Charles III of the United Kingdom and all European royalty. The fact that Michael Strahan is royalty was revealed in the season 5, episode 5 of the Finding Your Roots program hosted by Henry Louis Gates Jr. on the PBS network. It was revealed that Strahan is of Anglo-Saxon ancestry that traces to many kings of England and directly to Charlemagne, who is his 39th great-grandfather. Just like Michael Strahan, there are likely to be many other African Americans related to British or other European royalty. That is my basis for saying that there are likely to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of African Americans who are descendants of King David. Michael Strahan will be representing Good Morning America and America's television network ABC at King Charles III's coronation on May 6, 2023, this coming Saturday. He joked on the Good Morning America show that he will carry his crown along with him. While he may have been jesting, I am giving my suggestion a bit seriously. Since he is royalty, I suggest that some African country appoint him as their king, a ceremonial head, just like King Charles III is in the United Kingdom. Strahan will not run the country, which will be run by elected representatives. However, he will provide wise counsel and will have the counsel of all royal houses of Europe available to him, as they all are also descendants of King David. I am certain he will prove to be a dynamic king who will bring glamour, pageantry, honor, and prestige to the country, just as the British monarchy does to Britain. It is the plan of the United States, British Commonwealth nations, and other Israelite nations like France, Switzerland, Ireland, Scandinavian, and Benelux countries to ask people of all nations to return to their countries of origin. Their countries of origin, which are generally less developed, should welcome them because they will not come back empty handed. They will be able to carry back their wealth, scientific, technical, entrepreneurial, and other skills with them, and should be a boon to countries and should give an enormous boost to their economies. That will mean a huge amount of investment of their wealth in business ventures. In addition, because of their contacts in the United States, British Commonwealth nations, and other Northwestern European nations, they will attract large business and industrial development to their countries because of the emotional connection of having a descendant of King David ruling in European and African countries. Communication between European and African nations will also be much easier. They will be fantastic goodwill ambassadors for African countries. By the way, many past US presidents have also been descendants of King David. Enough ancestry related DNA studies have been done to determine the countries of origin of most people, particularly those of African origin, so that African Americans and other African people from other countries can be spread out over Africa to their actual countries of origin, original countries of origin. Coming back to Michael Strahan, for example, if Nigeria was to appoint him as king, he will be a great unifier of the country, bringing Christians and Muslims together to provide stability by stopping communal violence and work for the economic prosperity of the entire country. He will be able to leverage his contacts in the United States, British Commonwealth nations, and other democracies of Northwestern Europe to obtain additional help to build Nigeria's economy. Once these nations assist Nigeria, other developed nations will also want to do more business with Nigeria than they are already doing. There is a sound biblical reason for my proposal to make Mike Strahan king of an African country. King David was of the Israelite tribe of Judah. Jews are the descendants of the tribe of Judah. When God gave blessings to the tribes of Israel, the following blessing was conferred on the tribe of Judah in Genesis 49 verses 8 to 12 from the New Living Translation. Judah, your brothers will praise you. You will grasp your enemies by the neck. All your relatives will bow before you. Judah, my son, is a young lion that has finished eating its prey. Like a lion, he crouches and lies down, like a lioness who dares to rouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff. The King James Version translates this phrase as nor a lawgiver. From his descendants, until the coming of the one, that is Jesus Christ, to whom it belongs, the one whom all nations will honor. He ties his foal to a grapevine, the colt to his donkey to a choice wine. He washes his clothes in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk, indicating prosperity. Of particular note is verse 10, which states in the King James Version, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. And then verse 8 states, your father's children will bow down before you. These blessings state that the ruler of or king will come from Judah, before whom his brothers will bow down. After David wanted to build a house or temple for God, then God made an everlasting covenant or agreement with David, establishing his throne forever. That promise is stated in 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 16. And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. Because of God's promise to David, his descendants have ruled over Britain an unbroken dynasty from the time of David. All European royalty, because of marriages between all royal houses, can also trace their lineage to King David and Solomon. God has had a hand in the spread of Jews among all nations of the world. First reason is the scepter or rulership promise. When God promises human beings something, he always gives much more than promised. God had promised to King David that a descendant of his will always rule over at least one tribe in unbroken dynasty. In the fulfillment of that promise, not just one nation but all European royalty are related to King David because of intermarriages. As stated earlier, even US presidents and top leaders in Russia and other countries have also been Jews. Another Bible prophecy for God's kingdom is stated in Zechariah 8 verses 22 to 23. Yes, many people and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem and to pray before the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold of all the languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. This prophecy shows that in God's kingdom, leaders and people of all nations will consult the Jews living among them about God's laws and ways and will go along with them to Jerusalem to worship Jesus Christ, who will be ruling there. To fulfill this prophecy, God has made sure that Jews live among all nations. That's why in every nation, Jews look just like the indigenous inhabitants. That's why there are Jews among African Americans who look like any African American, and in African nations they look like other Africans. Influence of Jews in all nations has been extremely positive. They have been the leading intellectuals, teachers, and entrepreneurs in almost all nations. But most importantly, they have been a moderating influence on the evils among other inhabitants of nations. I will provide 5 examples that illustrate this point. 4 examples also illustrate the contrasting German influence on nations. Now, before I discuss these examples, first let me explain why there is a struggle between the Germans and the Jews in many nations, particularly in white countries. The Jews are people of the God of the Bible because to them were given the oracles of God, meaning the job of preservation of the Old Testament scriptures and the Holy Calendar. In contrast, the Germans make no secret of the fact that they follow Satan and that he is their guide and God. Satan is an enemy of God and opposes God in every project. It is natural that his followers be the enemies of the followers of God, therefore. That's why there has been a millennia-long struggle between the Jews and Germans and their ancestors, the ancient Assyrians. That struggle has become intense during the end times. Satan's traits are exposed in the Bible in the following scriptures. Revelation 12 verse 9 states, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So Satan deceives the whole world. Devil means he is diabolical, cunning, and crafty. 2 Corinthians chapter 11:14 echoes that sentiment, which states, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Then his lying and murderous nature is described in John 8 verse 44, which states, you are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. See how his traits parallel those of the Germans as described in Nahum chapter 3 verse 1 and verse 19. Woe to the bloody city! The prophet Nahum is using Nineveh, the ancient Assyrian capital, to represent their modern descendants, the Germans. Woe to the bloody city! which means, they're given to bloodshed and murder. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departs not, meaning that they're always victimizing some people or the other. Then, verse 19, upon whom has not your wickedness passed continually? That means they deal with all nations in their wicked ways, just as Satan deals with all people in his wicked ways. Now, the five examples that illustrate the moderating influence of the Jews on the evil of other nations perpetrated by the Germans, compared to the uh, compared to the evil of other nations perpetrated by the Germans and others. In Russia, mass killing was carried out by Lenin and Stalin, who have been determined now to be German masqueraders. Khrushchev, in contrast, immediately ended the Gulag system when he became the Communist Party chairman in the Soviet Union. Khrushchev was a Jew. Thus, Jews moderate the evil of the Germans, masqueraders, and native Russians in Russia. In Italy, German tribes have been represented since the days of the Roman Empire. So have been the Jews through the Trojans, who were Jews, a branch of whom ended up in Italy after the destruction of Troy. Jews have also gone to Italy in other migrations. The mafia are mainly descendants of the Germanic tribes. Murder, robbery, threats, and use of force are their normal ways. The Jews are responsible for a lot of the good that comes out of Italy. Now, two German masqueraders ruled in France recently, General Charles de Gaulle and Francois Mitterrand. During their rule, because of their policies, many people, in the hundreds of thousands or possibly more than a million, in Algeria was massacred. Though the French government was not complicit in the massacres in Rwanda, Mitterrand took action that turned a blind eye to what went on there. The point is that German masqueraders deliberately spread murder, bloodshed, and killings wherever they are in a position to do so. The fourth example, of course, is the United States, where German masqueraders have murdered around 10 million people, cremating 5 to 6 million alive in electric crematoriums, and murdering 3 to 4 million more in medical murders and numerous other ways, besides forcing 30 to 40 million white babies to be aborted. In contrast, the Jews have been the leading intellectuals in America and liberals who work to create a tolerant society. The physical example is the Jews in North India, the Jats and Sainis, me being a Saini myself. Because of over 3 millennia of biblical influence, our ancestors devoted themselves to earning a living through hard work in agriculture in our village over the last 2.5 millennia. We were relatively less affected by various invasions in North India because our ancestors paid their taxes to the rulers. But then the Mughals with their religion Islam came along and conquered the land. They started imposing their religion forcibly. During that time, Sikhism as a religion was taking shape. Because of forcible conversion, Sikhs were impacted and decided to impose the Mughals. Many Sikhs were massacred. To put a coffin in the nail of Sikhism, Hindus and Muslims collaborated. Older two of the four sons of the 10th and final Guru Gobind Singh had already been killed in battle. Then the Muslim governor Wazir Khan, on the advice of his Hindu Brahmin counselor Suchanand, apprehended the two remaining sons of the Guru, 9 and 6 years old respectively, who were betrayed by the Hindu Brahmin servant Gangu. Suchanand counseled Wazir Khan to kill the young sons to put an end to the religion that was rearing its ugly head, quote unquote, and would have been a competitor to both Islam and Hinduism. Wazir Khan had both boys buried alive in a brick wall constructed around them while they were standing. News of these dastardly murders carried out in a most cruel manner shocked people in the countryside of Punjab. This atrocity was a spark that lit the drive of the Jats, Sainis, and other Punjabis to flock to the Guru in large numbers to avenge the murders of his sons. They became Sikhs and ultimately became a military force to be reckoned with. The horrible act turned the Sikhs into a martial race who went on to create their own powerful empire. This example illustrates two traits of the Jews. First, they work hard to earn a living and live peacefully. Secondly, atrocities arouse them to take action to set things right. That's what the Sikhs, most of whom are Jats and Saini Jews, have done throughout their 500-year history. They moderated the evil influence of Islam as well as Hinduism. I hope leaders in Africa take my suggestion seriously to invite African descendants of King David to be their ceremonial kings. They will be a highly positive influence on their nations. God has shown the tremendous benefits they will derive from such a move. The Bible has also prophesied that it will happen in the future when God's kingdom is soon established on earth. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, how Bible prophecy is playing an important role in world affairs, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels, Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini, to view and get information on the latest videos.